Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be going over Chapter 7, Implementing a Performance Management System. Okay, here we go. Today we'll be looking at preparation for the implementation of the system. We'll be looking at communication plans, what they look like, what they should look like, what an effective communication plan can do, the appeals process for employees or anybody, it could be at any level, employee, supervisor, manager, who disagree with their evaluations, how they can appeal. Rater training programs to better prepare members of an organization to provide evaluations, provide ratings. Pilot testing of the program of the performance management system to make sure it's doing everything that it should do, to make sure there aren't any significant or very damaging flaws in the system. Ongoing monitoring and evaluation to make sure your system is chugging along as it should and measuring everything that you intend for it to measure, evaluating everything that you intend for it to evaluate. And what online implementation of a system can look like, the advantages and disadvantages of that. Okay. Preparation. So we've talked about this in other chapters. Buy-in. Buy-in is really a lot of what this chapter is about. A large chunk of this chapter is about buy-in. How to get buy-in from all members of the organization. Without buy-in, the performance management system just simply will not work. So there's three main points that we're going to discuss here. Main methods of gaining buy-in. A communication plan, the training program, and pilot testing the system. Okay. We'll also look at monitoring and evaluation to see how that can contribute to buy-in and the benefits that monitoring and evaluation can bring to the table. Okay, so as we go over the communication plan, we're going to answer these questions. What is performance management? How does performance management fit into our strategy? As you remember, that's something we've talked about a lot. The performance management system should align with the strategic goals of the organization. What's in it for me? So every employee, every supervisor, every manager, everyone who's involved in this system, whether they're being evaluated or providing evaluations, is going to wonder what's in it for them. So this has to be communicated to them. How does it work? It has to be clearly the rules have to be clearly laid out and explained, the rules, the guidelines, the procedures. If employees, supervisors, managers don't understand how the system works, they'll be much less likely to buy into the process, much less likely to actually participate in the system, the performance management system. What are our roles and responsibilities? Again, that goes in line with understanding how it works. How does it fit into the strategy? You know, what's my role in this in the system and the overall strategy? What are my responsibilities? What do I have to do? Okay. And then how does performance management relate to other initiatives within the company? How does this new system, employees are going to be wondering, how does this new system fit into what we're doing already or other things that we're doing in other areas of the company? Okay, so these are all questions that the communication plan will answer. Okay, so some problems with communication. These are some biases that may affect the communication plan. Some common biases that we're all affected by at one point or another. Just real quick, I mean, you could read for hours on these biases, but just real quick, I'll give you a brief explanation of each. Selective exposure is sort of exposing yourself to information that supports your point of view. So you'll avoid information that you fear will challenge what you want to believe or what you already believe. Okay, so you're choosing to expose yourself to certain information. Okay, this can be a problem with communication. Okay, that's selective exposure. Selective perception is ignoring those points or that information that, again, challenges your view. So if you're in a conversation with somebody, you're communicating with them, you may ignore some of what they're saying because it challenges your beliefs. Okay. Selective retention, that's simply only remembering what you want to remember, forgetting what challenges your beliefs. So all of these really have to do with avoiding or forgetting or not acknowledging information that cause you discomfort or cause you some sort of pain or that you disagree with. So it's going against those beliefs that do that. Okay? These are problems with communication. So how do you minimize these biases? Well, you have to consider the employees. Okay, you have to involve the employees in the system design. Show how employees' needs are met. So if employees are involved in the design and they know what their role is and how their needs are being met by participating in this new performance management system, sometimes it needs to be clearly laid out. Sometimes how employees' needs are being met isn't so clear. Okay, this needs to be laid out for them. They need to be involved in the system design, excuse me. So with these, they're more likely to be open to information that's sort of challenging of their point of view or information that may cause them discomfort. They'll be more open to it, more willing to discuss it. Okay. All right. Okay, emphasize the positive. So creating a positive attitude is very, very powerful. Putting employees or supervisors or managers, whoever's being evaluated, putting them in that positive state of mind can be a very powerful tool. When people feel as though they're being attacked, they sometimes shut down or are much less open to debate or considering others' viewpoints. So striking first, as it says here, and creating that positive attitude right off the bat may open employees up to more effective communication. Okay, they're much less likely to shut out those points that cause discomfort or that they do not agree with. Okay, and using credible communicators and facts. Okay, giving them facts and providing them information about real consequences that may occur if they perform in a certain way. Facts, real communicators, real consequences. Again, providing information that's hard to disagree with, that's hard to disprove. I think most of us can relate. If you've ever been lied to, it's hard to, or had someone been dishonest with you, it's hard to communicate with that person in the future. It sort of muddies that conversation, not just for that particular conversation at that moment in time, but also for future conversations with that person. So being real, providing facts, being credible, that will lead to much more positive and open and effective communication in the long run. Okay, minimizing the effects. Continued, we're going to repeat, document, be consistent. So putting directions for employees, putting evaluations in writing is going to make it easier for employees to understand. Maybe they can read it over a few times to get an understanding of it. If you just say it once in one particular meeting and then, okay, off you go, try to implement everything I've just told you, it's going to be hard. So maybe putting it in writing for the employee to look over multiple times when he or she has the time, that might be a good strategy. And using multiple channels of communication, maybe employees aren't the best at reading long reports, but they would rather have a conversation. They remember conversation. Some employees might be the opposite. They might not remember much from a conversation and they may prefer to read a report about their own behavior. So using different channels of communication, you're more likely to use a form of communication that an employee can relate to or feels comfortable using. Okay? And just saying it and saying it again, just repeating it. Repeating what you mean so the employee understands. Pretty simple. Okay, appeals. So what happens when employees disagree with their ratings? This has to be planned for. if you just wing it and go into a performance management and implement a performance management system that has no room for disagreement by those people who are being evaluated, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's not going to seem fair. I think this is pretty clear. I think I would feel that if I was involved in a system where I was not allowed to appeal judgments that were bestowed upon me, I would not feel that that system was fair. Okay, there has to be some room for an appeal process. Okay, and that promotes buy-in. Again, it makes you feel like the process is fair. It makes the process seem like something that you want to be a part of, or the system, excuse me, the performance management system seems like something that you want to be a part of if it is fair. Okay, and if you have room to express your own concerns or express your own opinions, even if they are in opposition to those who are evaluating you. Okay, so amicable and non-retaliatory appeals. You want to set up a process, and if you have a process in place, then these appeals can be a calm and amicable process. It doesn't have to be, a process of conflict. It can be amicable, and you're seeking to resolve disagreements. Okay. So employees can question a couple issues, the judgmental issues. So pretty simple. The validity of an evaluation. Was this evaluation fair? Was it accurate of my work? Did the evaluator judge me in a way equal to everyone else? Did the evaluator have any biases towards me? Did the evaluator play favorites or somehow deflate my rating because he or she doesn't like me? Okay, so you can have an appeals process set up to question judgmental issues and also administrative issues. So were the policies followed? Okay, so I received a great evaluation, and everyone else who, well, it says in the rules that if you receive this level of evaluation, then you'll get this level of a raise, and I didn't receive that raise, that's a violation of the policy. I should be able to question that administrative action. Okay, so issues like that. You have to have a process in place where employees can amicably and respectfully question these types of evaluations. Okay. So here's a recommended appeals process. Remember, we're still under the umbrella of communication here. This is communication, just the first of the 3 points that we're going to go over. Okay, so the recommended appeals process. At the first level, HR is going to handle most of it. HR is going to try to resolve a conflict before administrative action needs to be taken or anything serious needs to happen. So HR will review the facts and the policies and the procedures, and they'll attempt to negotiate some type of an agreement between the evaluator and the evaluatee, whoever's being evaluated or judged or rated. So sort of the first line of defense before an appeal or a disagreement goes up to the higher level, which is level 2. And then you'll have an arbitrator, panel of peers or managers, or a high-level manager making a final decision. There's usually much more paperwork involved in this level. There can sometimes be legal ramifications. So this is the higher level. This is the more serious. Level. So, but it's good to have these two levels. You want to have room for disagreements to be resolved before they get to that serious level. But if they can't, you do need to have a contingency plan. You do need to plan for the possibility that it won't get resolved at level 1, and something more serious is going to happen at level 2, possibly even legal action. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move out of communication and into rater training programs. Okay, so here's an overview of rater training programs. Pretty straightforward. Content areas, we want to include information, information about the performance management system and what exactly the raters will be evaluating. Okay, obviously they need to know how the system works and what it is they are providing ratings for. Again, that's the identifying, observing, recording, and evaluating. You need to know how to identify, how to observe the behavior, how to record it, and how to evaluate it, and then how to interact with the employees. This is sort of the, I guess I would call it sort of the soft skills side. The hard skills might be the identifying, observing, and evaluating, and then the soft skills are the interacting with employees, actually conveying ratings to employees. You can, I think the discussion that I posted, the video for discussion that I posted for this week, concerns this: how to interact with employees when providing them with feedback, when providing them with ratings. Okay. And then choices of rating programs to implement. Here are 4 programs here, and we're going to go over these, in a little bit more detail in a couple of slides. So we'll hold off on these for now, and then we'll talk about them in just a minute. First, let's talk about these content areas in a little bit more detail. So with information, you're going to tell them how the system works, and we kind of talked about this already. Reasons for implementing the system, how the any forms that they're going to have to fill out, how these forms should be filled out, how they work, and just how the overall performance management system is going to work in terms of what's going to happen to employees after they receive their ratings. Is someone going to be fired if they receive a poor rating? Is somebody going to be in line for a promotion or a raise if they receive a positive rating? So raters need to know this type of stuff. This type of information needs to be included in the program. And as for identifying, observing, recording, and evaluating performance, sort of talked about this already: how to identify and rank job activities, how to observe, record, and measure performance, and how to minimize rating errors. So maybe think about those biases that we talked about when we were talking about the communication section. Okay, those biases might come into play, or simply just not understanding the job well enough, not understanding the employee's job well enough to make an accurate rating. So training programs should address this biases, or just lack of information, lack of knowledge about the job. Okay, how to interact with employees, so how to conduct interviews, and how to counsel, how to coach, how to train employees for better performance. Okay, so that should also be included. Okay, now we'll get into the choices of training programs. Okay, so rater error training. What are the goals of rater error training? First, to make raters aware of the types of errors that they're likely to make, or the types of errors they're likely to commit. Okay, so you want to help raters minimize these errors and increase rating accuracy. Okay, so what are some problems that they can run into? Well, there's leniency, which is inflation of ratings. We've talked about these before. Inflation, severity, which is being severity as in being too severe, deflating ratings. Rating an employee more negative than he or she should be rated. And then central tendency, the tendency to give a central tendency is sort of this tendency people have to give somebody a very positive rating, and then the next person comes in, and whether that person is just as positive, that person might be just as positive as the first person you had in there, but you might say to yourself, oh, I don't want to give 2 people such a positive rating in a row. So you might actually deflate that person's rating, and you're sort of regressing towards the mean. You're regressing towards the center. Okay, that's what central tendency is talking about. Okay, and some unintentional rating errors. If somebody's similar to you, you're more likely to rate them more positively. First impression, if somebody makes a great first impression, but maybe they're not doing their job so well, the rater might evaluate that employee on that first impression, and thus not be rating very accurately in terms of how that employee is performing on the job. Okay, contrast, if someone comes in and if someone does very, very poorly, you give them a very poor rating, and then someone else comes in and is also doing a pretty crappy job, also pretty poor, but in comparison to that person who came in before, maybe they look great in comparison to that first person, so you give them an inflated rating. Okay, that's a contrast effect. Okay, stereotyping can occur, in any situation. Any gender can be stereotyped, any race can be stereotyped. Okay, so there's stereotyping effects. Religion, or any types of beliefs you hold, political views, stereotype effects. You have to be careful about those. Training is definitely important to negate stereotype effects, or to ameliorate stereotype effects. Okay. So some possible solutions for errors. Focusing on motivation. Okay, so you want to demonstrate the benefits of providing accurate ratings. Okay, so you motivate raters to be more accurate by telling them, hey, if you actually give accurate ratings for all these people, you're going to get some kind of benefit. Maybe you provide some sort of a bonus for people that give really, really accurate ratings. Okay, this is where the evaluation and monitoring is going to come in to see if those ratings are actually accurate. Okay. All right, so let's move into frame of reference training. Excuse me. What's the goal of frame of reference training? You want raters to develop a common frame of reference, so everybody is observing and evaluating performance in the same way, observing and evaluating behaviors in the same way. Okay, so hopefully if you give some sort of frame of reference training, raters are going to provide more consistent and more accurate ratings. Okay, that's definitely the biggest benefit. And then raters will help employees design effective development plans. Okay, if a bunch of raters are all on the same page in terms of observing and rating performance, then they'll be better able to help a group of employees better design their own development plans. Okay, if they all have an accurate understanding of the job, they'll better be able to help those who do the job, right? Okay, behavior observation training to so goals of this type of training is to minimize unintentional rating errors. You're going to improve rater skills by focusing on how they observe performance, store the information about performance, so storing or recording the information about what they're observing, remembering what it is they've observed and what's important, and how to use information. So again, what's important, what is actually relevant in terms of the rating. Okay, so training raters on how to observe, just simply how to observe the behavior. Okay, and then there's self-leadership training. So the goals here are to improve the raters' confidence in their ability to manage performance. Okay, you're going to increase the raters' self-efficacy. Okay, if raters believe that they are indeed capable of providing accurate ratings and capable of implementing performance management systems, then they'll do a better job. Research supports this theory that if those who feel more confident in their ability to do something well will actually do a better job. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on out of training programs. Move into pilot testing. All right. So pilot testing is done before the system is implemented, and it gives those who design the system, those who are implementing the system, the ability to discover problems before they cause too much damage or before they become, you don't want employees or raters or anybody in the organization to pick up bad habits. You don't want them doing you don't want them engaging in the performance management system in a damaging way, in a harmful way, in a unproductive way. So discover problems before they cause too much of a problem, too much of an issue, and to fix those problems. Okay, so what are some benefits of pilot testing? You're going to gain information about the potential participants, and maybe there's something you missed in terms of the guidelines of the performance management system. Now that you actually have people coming through and taking part in it, new issues might surface that you didn't think of before. Okay, so it's good to pilot test before instituting it organization-wide, so you can pick up some of these problems before everybody is exposed to these problems. Okay, you'll understand personal reactions, reactions from different types of employees, how to plan for certain reactions, how to plan for certain behaviors that result from providing ratings to certain members of the organization. Okay, you may get early buy-in from some participants. Say you test this performance management system, you evaluate the manager of some department, and that manager really, really likes the performance management system during the pilot test, and he tells all his employees, hey, we have this great performance management system being implemented. You'll all love it. It's going to be great for your development. So then that manager's employees may come into the performance management system in a very positive mindset, and that's great for buy-in. Okay. So let's talk about the ongoing monitoring and evaluation of the system. Okay. So when the system is implemented, you're going to need to decide on a few points. Okay, they're listed here. How to evaluate the system effectiveness. So how are you going to know if the system is actually working? How to measure implementation. Again, how you're going to know that it is in fact that everybody's using it, that everybody's taking part of it. Okay, taking part in it. Excuse me. And how to measure results. So again, these all have to do with, is it working? Is everybody taking part in it? Are people actually buying into this system? All right. So once you have data, you can evaluate reactions to the system. Again, are people actually buying in? Do people hate it? Do people love it? What are people saying about it? Is there any feedback that we can use to improve the system? Okay. Once you have data, you can try and figure all of these questions out. Okay. The effectiveness of performance ratings. So is the system actually, are the ratings being given to employees actually causing a difference? Are employees actually improving their behavior as a result? All right, online implementation. So how can a system be implemented online? Or, excuse me, a system really can never be fully implemented online, but these are tools to facilitate the rollout of a system, to facilitate the use of a system. Okay, so emails can be used to communicate. Obviously, if people can't meet face-to-face, emails or even like a video conferencing, type of video conferencing can be used to meet or to talk to a supervisor, or to do a rating meeting if it's emergency, or if two people can't meet for whatever reason. Electronic newsletters, websites, appeal filing online, so employees don't have to be running around all over talking to a million different people to actually file an appeal. Training programs online, so that rater training, you may want to do it online, you may not want to, it depends. Pop-up reminders can be useful for scheduling to make sure nobody forgets an appointment. Okay. All right, a quick review. So what did we do today? We looked at preparation, how to get ready for a performance management plan implementation, how to get ready for the rollout of this plan. Why a communication plan is important. What are the benefits of a good communication plan? How is a good communication plan developed? How is it maintained? We looked at an appeals process. It's always good. It's always necessary to have a process where employees or managers or executives, or really anybody who's being evaluated within the organization, a process where these people can appeal whatever rating they've gotten. Helps them to feel heard, helps them to have buy-in in the system, makes it feel more fair. Training programs for those who are doing the ratings. We talked about those hard skills and those soft skills. So the hard skills, actually doing the ratings, observing the behaviors, making sure you're observing the right behavior, making sure you're rating whoever you're rating on relevant performance, relevant observations, things that have to do with their job. Okay, so training for these people to make sure they're doing it right. Pilot testing, okay, so you don't roll out a flawed performance management system to an entire organization. Pilot testing gives you some time to correct any errors, to correct any flaws that may present in the in the system after the initial pilot testing. Okay, and then the ongoing monitoring and evaluation. So how do you know that it's working? Are people buying into it? Are the ratings actually improving performance? All right, so monitoring and evaluation is extremely important to know that your performance management system is actually having an effect and that people actually are buying in. It's actually adding value to the organization. And then some tools for online implementation, so emails, setting up a website specifically for the program, filing appeals online, training programs online, some sort of online scheduling system. Okay, these can all help with the performance management system. Okay, and that's about it. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you next week.